Randy Cunningham, ninth grade ninja, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Ultimate Spider-Man. There are so many Disney XD shows that follow the same formula of high school but weird. So why, out of all the good Disney XD shows, do I remember Fish Hooks so vividly? This show just popped into my head one day and now just lives rent-free in my head. So for fun, I decided to watch the entire show from beginning to end to see why I remember this show so vividly. For those of you wondering why I'm talking about the Fish Hook like I'm a veteran fisherman, let me get you up to speed. Fish Hooks is a cartoon that aired on Disney XD from September 3rd, 2010 to April 4th, 2014, created by Noah Z. Jones and developed for television by Alex Hirsch and Will Rice. Fish Hooks follows 3 teenage fish as they navigate high school and go on wacky adventures. If the name Alex Hirsch sounds familiar, it's because he went on to co-produce Gravity Falls, one of Disney XD's most successful shows. You can definitely see the humor and attention to detail that Alex Hirsch brought to the show.
You'll have to excuse me. I am a little horse.
Something that will become apparent as we go through the episodes. Fish Hooks combines 2D animation with photo collages, a style that's a little jarring and uncanny at first, but one that you'll eventually get used to. Oscar, a nerdy catfish who is hopelessly in love with his friend Bee, is voiced by Justin Roiland. Yes, this is the same person who went on to co-create Rick and Morty and who voices both of those characters. You can hear the same nerd in both Oscar and Morty's voices.
Alright, Oscar, you've got 2 great seats to the show and a night alone with the girl you share a song with. What could go wrong?
Oh, that was you.
They tried to murder him first. Oh, jeez. Well, you'll be happy to know that the council's gone now. Yeah, he knows he murdered them.
Oscar is kinda like Isabella from Phineas and Ferb, if she were an incel more creepy. Just like how Isabella is not so secretly in love with Phineas, Oscar is also not so secretly in love with Bee. Voiced by Chelsea Kane, Bee Goldfishberg is a shark. Nah, I'm just joking. She's a goldfish and aspiring actress who's this show's stereotypical high school girl. She's very charismatic and a little self-centered, but wants to make the most of her time in high school. Finally, we have Milo, Oscar's fun-loving little brother voiced by Kyle Massey. If you're a fan of That's So Raven, he played Corey Baxter in that show. But I never watched That's So Raven, so it doesn't mean that much to me. Milo and Oscar's relationship is kinda like Mordecai and Rigby's relationship in regular show, except that Milo is way more annoying and self-centered than Rigby, which is saying a lot. He caused about 50% of the problems in the show, with the other 50% being split fairly evenly between Bee and Oscar. Milo feels less of a main character compared to Oscar and Bee, but he's still more important than the other recurring characters. Just not as compelling in my opinion. Some notable recurring characters include Chelsea, voiced by Carrie Walgren. My favorite character, Clamantha, is voiced by Alex Hirsch. Albert Glass, voiced by Atticus Schaffer, who you might recognize as Brick Heck from The Middle, or maybe I'm just showing my age. Fimberly, voiced by Kimberly Mooney, Jumbo Shrimp, voiced by Stephen Christopher Parker, Esmargot, voiced by Rachel Dratch, and Koi, also voiced by Rachel Dratch. There are plenty more characters, the number of which increases as the series go on, but enough stalling, let's dive into the world of Fish Hooks. Dang, this is gonna be annoying. The first episode of Fish Hooks on DisneyPlus is Doris Flores Gorgeous, whereas the actual first episode according to release date is Bee Stays in the Picture. Also, why am I paying for a streaming service if it's also just gonna have ads? With all this money Disney's getting from me and the advertisers, you'd think they'd be able to afford someone to ensure that all the episodes are imported in the correct order. Especially at the end, where the last episode is literally sandwiched in the middle of the season, which is a whole other problem. I'm gonna skip to the episode Doris Flores Gorgeous and start off with that one. 1, because it's the one I remember the most, and 2, because I think it's a good explanation of how this series is gonna go on and the structure of the episodes. And because even the service I'm using to get the clips of these videos, totally legally by the way, they also follow the Disney Plus episode ordering. Except that the labeling is in official release order, which is totally not confusing at all. Although this isn't the first episode, it's actually the 4th one. This is the one that I remember the most from my childhood. I'll go into more detail for this episode than for the rest of them, just so you get an idea of how a typical episode goes. Man, that intro brings me back. I would play it in full, but I would like to actually be able to publish this video, so instead you'll just have to settle for my beautiful recreation. 1, 2, 3, 4, who's that knocking at my door? 5, 6, 7, 8, hurry up and don't be late. 9, 10, 11, 12, got a secret I can tell. Flap your fins, flip your tail, school's out, ring a bell, la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. 1, 2, 3, 4, who's that knocking at my door? 5, 6, 7, 8, hurry up and don't be late. 9, 10, 11, 12, got a secret I can't tell. Flap your fins, flip your tail, school's out, ring a bell. Getting into the actual episode, from the first frame there are little details that work to foreshadow the theme of the episode. From the sign above the store saying dating service, to what the storekeeper and the cat do as we zoom into the tank. I think it's funny that this store is right next to a sushi store and that the animal that runs around is a cat. Both ironic considering the fact that we're following fish. The sign and the manager are both recurring motifs that work to foreshadow the theme of every episode. That little attention to detail is something that I really like about this show, and that you can see is translated to Gravity Falls. Actually getting into the meat of the episode, we open with Oscar and Milo talking about what they want to do after school. Well, more like Oscar's talking to Milo and Milo's trying to figure out if he can stick his head in the water filter. B swims in and we see the character trait that follows Oscar throughout the entire series. He is so in love with B that it's embarrassing. He really wants to go out with B, but is so nervous to talk to her about anything related to his love for her. It doesn't matter because B is going on a date with Bo Gregory anyway. The next day, Milo, of course, gets his head stuck in the water filter and B is dating a different guy. Someone's getting a head start in the college experience. Even Milo has a date in Fimberly. I wish they continue with this relationship, but Fimberly kind of evolves into the character that's more of a goofball and that trips everywhere and she just gets a little bit more lame. Focusing back on Oscar, he decides the best course of action is to pretend to date someone. This episode kind of devolves into the classic "the lie got too big" episode. They even do the cliche "what's her name" bit, and Oscar makes up a name based on what he sees around him, which is how we got the name Doris Flores Gorgeous.
Yeah, my girlfriend's really nice, and she likes all the things that I like.
What's her name?
What?
What's your girlfriend's name?
You want to know her name? It's, Dor.
You mean Doris?
Yeah, Doris. Doris Flores. Yeah, that's it. That's her name. Doris Flores Gorgeous. The girl in my head. I mean, of my dream.
At the end of the episode, just when Oscar is about to reveal that he made Doris Flores Gorgeous up, she descends from the heavens as if she were a goddess and gives Oscar a big old smooch on the cheek. But instead of taking this gift from the heavens, he decides to end this relationship before it even begins because he's in love with B. Good thing too, because when everyone jumps after Milo, who got his head stuck in a bucket, it's revealed that Doris Flores Gorgeous is actually Clemantha, the goat. She acts as Oscar's foil, a representation of what Oscar would look like if he were more brazen with his obsession with B. This episode's a good representation of a traditional structure of every episode moving forward. All three characters are present in every single episode, even if it's for just a little bit. They just take turns leading each episode. And by leading the episode, I mean causing the problem the episode is centered around and subsequently trying to fix. B stays in the picture. Another episode that I remember vividly. It centers around a school picture day, where B wants her picture to be perfect because when she becomes a famous actress, that picture will be everywhere. The people in front of her take some awful pictures, and when it's B's turn, it looks even worse. So of course this means B and Milo need to go on a Minecraft story mode style adventure to delete the picture. The picture actually turned out decent. And that's the problem, especially with some of these early episodes. The ending is kind of predictable. Maybe it's because I've already seen these episodes before. Something I didn't mention until now is at the end of each batch of 2 episodes, to ensure the kids are paying attention to the end credits, there would be a segment with Mouse and Snake. Yes, those are their names. I won't be mentioning them, mostly because I don't really care about them and they don't really add too much to the episode. But one I will mention, because it's one that I vividly remember, is that Mouse convinced Snake to eat herself Ouroboros style.
Okay.
That's the stuff, Snake. Get it, get it. Ah, you show that old Snake. You show him. Ah! Works every time.
Fish sleepover party. Oscar and Milo cross-dress to crash the girls' sleepover because they're scared of losing B. Usually guys pretend to be gay, but whatever works, I guess. Fish out of water. Milo acts selfish the entire episode and forces his friends to leave the tank, even when they explicitly told him they had other obligations. I really don't like Milo's character this episode. He's so needlessly stupid this episode, and the idea of him using himself to lead the cat back into the tank doesn't really redeem himself in my eyes. This episode just starts a theme of Milo-centered episodes that I just don't like, and we're gonna go through them as the list goes on. Underwater Boy. Milo sees the attention Joctopus receives by being on the football team, so he decides that he wants to join the football team too, although he spends more time focusing on the end zone dances than actually playing the game, and because of that, Coach gave him the role of Water Boy. Milo's not too happy about this, because they're literally swimming in water, but after a speech from Oscar, he realizes how important his role is. Coincidentally, the one game that he skips is the one game where they're not even playing in the fish tank, so they do actually need a Water Boy. But literally in the last episode, they had a device that allowed them to be active outside the tank, but hey, Milo learned that every part has its importance to the whole. Happy birthfish, Joctopus. This is another episode that I remember. It's the school bully's birthday. Oscar, Milo, and B decide to give Joctopus cash, except that before they're about to hand it over, he literally says that he's gonna beat up the next person that gives him cash. So B and Milo decide to hand Oscar over. Not very good friends. Oscar ends up making Joctopus's life more efficient, so he equates that to being friends with Joctopus, until he sees that B and Milo are next on Joctopus's hit list. Oscar would have been so justified in letting Joctopus beat them up, but he saves them from being beat up by Joctopus by making him beat himself up. B becomes an adult fish. Just like the title says, B wants to be an adult to get away from her overbearing parents. Milo and Oscar do the opposite and spend time with the babies in daycare. B realizes how much responsibility comes with being an adult and goes back to her parents. Doggone it. Milo gets a dog that everyone but Oscar loves. Yes, that singular dog leg is supposed to be a dog named Murphy. Oscar tries to love Murphy, but after a session alone with him leads to Murphy leaving, Oscar, Milo, and B rescue him from the scorpion tank. Queen Bee. Bee wants to go to homecoming so she can be crowned homecoming queen, but her parents are going to be chaperoning. So instead of asking them to avoid her, she sets up a fake homecoming dance with Milo and Oscar. It just evolves into one of those episodes where she's running back and forth from place to place as she faces the consequences of her actions. But hey, at least she was crowned homecoming queen. Stale fish. Milo's at risk of being held back because of his grades. Oscar and Bee try to help him study, but nothing works, until they realize that Milo learns best when his life is in danger. I'm surprised Milo didn't just straight up die this episode. He ended up passing the test. Funny fish. Oscar doesn't get the joke of the video that Bee and Milo are laughing at. Honestly, man, I don't get it either. But instead of saying that, Oscar decides to laugh at everything. Ooh, what is number 12? I didn't write down number 12. Something superfish. Oscar and Milo believe that the teacher, Mr. Baldwin, is a superhero named Captain Aquarium. And because Bee needs a news story for a journalism class, she joins Oscar and Milo in the quest to prove that Mr. Baldwin is a secret hero. Honestly, a really well done story. I liked how they tied Bee and Oscar into Milo's shenanigans. Just please leave the pregnant man alone. Dances with wolffish. Milo thinks Oscar is too clean and Oscar thinks Milo is too messy. This is one of those episodes where Milo is annoying just because, and it makes me side with Oscar. But eventually they learn through living the extremes of their beliefs that it's okay to be messy or neat sometimes. What's weird is that their principal moved in with Oscar while Milo was gone. I'm not sure how legal that living situation would be. Hooray for Hamsterwood. I remember this episode like I watched it yesterday, mainly because I love seeing romance in TV shows, and this one did not disappoint. Milo has a crush on Pamela Hamster, the star of multiple TV shows in Hamsterwood. Bee gets jealous, so Milo gets her a role in the Hamsterwood show. They go to Hamsterwood, and Milo wastes no time rizzing up Pamela Hamster in his hamster suit. I hate the photo collage shot they do with Pamela's face. It looks really disgusting. It only looks a little bit better with Steve Jackson and Chelsea. The twist at the end is that Bee's role is to get eaten for a reality TV show, so they fake being sick and escape. I think my nostalgia for this episode caused me to enjoy it a lot more, because objectively, this episode just kind of made. The Tale of Sir Oscar Fish, another episode I remember. Oscar is experiencing extreme anxiety, so to cope, he journals about Sir Oscar Fish the Brave, a fish who is everything Oscar is not. The next day, Oscar misses the bus, and while trying to catch up with it, he hits his head on a sign. When he comes to, he is in the fantasy land that he was just journaling about. Because Oscar believes he's dreaming, he does everything that he normally wouldn't, actually being brave. Of course, when we cut back to Bee and Milo, we learn that he's just in a different tank. So they set off to find Oscar, collecting different Oscar variants along the way, like he's a Pokemon or something. Once they reach Oscar, he realizes that this isn't a dream and that he could actually die. Too bad he already volunteered to save the Clamantha clone from a beast. It all works out in the end as Oscar and his variants work together to take down the beast. He actually ran into another stop sign. Another episode that was made better because of my nostalgia, because this story was also really basic. It was still pretty good though. Milo gets a ninja. Apparently I've seen this episode. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in it. Dropsy. Milo acts like a selfish prick again by faking an illness to get attention. At least he got what he deserved at the end when they cast him into the Dropsy tank and the episode just ends. I was kind of surprised the episode just ended there. It seems like they kind of ran out of time with this one. Fishing for Compliments, the Glass Albert story. Another episode I remember. This one follows Bea as she crashes out over Albert not liking her. So the most rational thing to do in her opinion was to go to his house, cuff him, and force him to watch sports with her until he liked her. Bea almost ends up unaliving Albert, which is not good if you want someone to like you, and then ends up not caring what Albert thinks of her. This caused Albert to confess that he didn't like her because she wanted everyone to like her. But now that she doesn't care, she doesn't give him the ick anymore. Big Fish. Yeah, another episode I remember. In this episode, Milo starts off sexist, but quickly gets humbled as he realizes that he isn't as strong as the women. This emasculates him, so instead of working on himself, he takes the easy way out. Jumbo Shrimp shows Milo a tank that makes him bigger and stronger, but he abuses that power and becomes too big for the tank. The Dark Side of the Fish. Oscar becomes goth because he doesn't like bunnies. I kind of remember this episode too, I just didn't like it that much. Dollars and Fish. I remember so many episodes in season 1, and this one's another where Milo acts selfishly. Didn't we have an episode about this? This is the first introduction of Randy Pincherson, a classic arrogant rich guy character. I don't really like his character too much, especially not in season 1. I think it gets a little better in season 2. I think it's mainly because he's a very static character. When he's on screen, you know he's trying to get something. In this case, I don't want to say tricks Milo into taking out a loan, because Milo is just dumb and doesn't understand how loans work. The only reason Milo takes out the loan in the first place is because he's broke and wants to go to the Brandon Butler concert with his friends, and the only punishment if he didn't pay back the loan was getting pinched, which doesn't even sound that bad, but Oscar and B end up paying the loan for him, going broke in the process. What an awful friend. He tries to make up for this mistake by working, but eventually just ends up selling the bike he initially bought for enough cash to pay back his friends and to go to the concert. Fish floaters. This is a boys versus girls episode where they compete to see who can build a better float. They both win in the end as their floats combine to form their principal. Flying fish. This is the first introduction of Mr. Muscles, Freshwater High's theater teacher. He tells Milo that everyone should have a dream, but Milo doesn't. That is until he literally dreams about flying, and that becomes his passion. But I don't know if he noticed, but fish don't have wings. Something that actually comes back in season 3. Bee and Oscar noticed and either actively downplay or discourage his dream. That is until Milo captures a bird and forces him to take him flying. Bee and Oscar realize that they should support their friend, no matter how stupid his ambition may be. Maybe not in helping him kidnap someone, but their hearts were in the right place. Two Clams in Love. This episode is the first one that I didn't recognize and really enjoyed, actually. Not that the other episodes I've seen before were bad per se, this one was just really well paced and the story was engaging. Oscar can't handle Clemantha's obsession with him, but Clemantha ends up falling in love with Oscar's computer. It's a funny gimmick that comes to head when his battery dies and Clemantha thinks that he's ignoring her. I always love episodes featuring Clemantha because she adds an air of absurdity that works for this show. Peopling. This is another Milo acts like a selfish idiot episode, and yet again, he almost gets himself killed. Milo wants to go fishing for Big Blue, which is just the human we see at the beginning of every episode, but Milo ends up almost dehydrating in Big Blue's pocket. Big Blue starts sweating and that sweat saves him, but if Milo is a freshwater fish and sweat is saltwater, wouldn't he have just died? This was just a nothing burger of an episode. Legend of the Earth Troll. Two bad Milo-centered episodes in a row. Oscar wants Milo to recycle more, so he invents an Earth Troll who will only visit if Milo recycles. The Earth Troll is actually Oscar in disguise. This causes Milo to over-recycle, until a twist at the end reveals that the Earth Troll actually exists. This is another weak episode. Parasite Fright. They really love Milo because this episode centers him again. Milo becomes paranoid after watching a horror movie and almost kills his friends. That's it. We've had a really bad string of Milo-centered episodes. Pamela Hamster returns. Pamela wants to visit Milo, but she doesn't know that he's actually a fish. This causes Milo to hatch a plan to smash all of the tanks while hiding everyone at a lame party that he throws. This episode was weaker than the previous Milo and Pamela centered one, but maybe that's because I look at that one through rose-tinted glasses. Riding in cars with fish. Oscar has to take his driving test, and who else would be his instructors than Mr. Muscles and Coach Salmons? Side note, I think that would be a really cute gay couple. Anyway, they run a 2-ding system. 2 or more dings and you fail the test. Oscar, of course, racks up 3 dings over the course of the episode. Then they get chased by the store cat, and Oscar has to drive Mr. Muscles and Coach Salmons to safety. He drives well and follows the law while doing so. So Mr. Muscles and Coach Salmons decide to remove one of Oscar's dings, which means that Oscar ends up passing his exam. Milo's big idea. Milo comes up with the idea of fridge hats, which Randy steals and makes more money off of. Milo comes up with new inventions with the help of Bee and Oscar, but it seems like Randy has some insider information. We come to find out that Milo was blogging about the new inventions he was creating. They end up sabotaging Randy because there was a flaw in the fridge hat design. This is a pretty good Milo-centered episode. Mascot Chastrophe. Another selfish Milo episode. This time Milo and Oscar are seen as the good luck charm of the women's basketball team. Side note, you should support your women's basketball team. I support my women's basketball team. I love watching women's basketball. But when Milo wants the fame that comes from removing the mask, Oscar explicitly tells him that he's not comfortable with that. Milo doesn't care though. Why would he? Why would he be a good person? So he exposes them to the entire school. Oscar has every right not to continue being the mascot for the team. It really didn't matter anyway because he gets captured. Milo has to rescue him before the end of the women's basketball game so they can help their team win. But it really ends up being so they can help the team cheat. Good Morning Freshwater. Finally, a bee-centered episode. I was getting worried that they forgot she could carry a story. Oscar runs the morning announcements, but everyone gets bored while watching.
Oh, look at that! It's time for Oscar's morning announcements.
So Bee decides to put her acting skills to use and up the production value of their morning announcements. She kinda loses the plot a little though, forgetting to actually say the announcements and pushing Oscar out of his own program. This all comes to a head when she forgets to announce that their cafeteria is closed for the day, so everyone goes immediately feral, as you do. This would be a good Snickers commercial. I feel like I've seen this episode, but it's such a common episode that it could have been from a different show. Diary of a Lost Fish. Randy steals Bee's diary, so he forced her to go on a date with him, or else he's gonna read her diary to the class. Hey, don't take notes, this is not Riz. While Bee's on a date with Randy, Oscar and Milo try to steal back Bee's diary, but end up finding Randy's diary instead, pulling the biggest Uno reverse card. We've got Fish Spirit. This is the first episode that's split into 2 parts. It didn't need to be, but I'm glad that it was. The entire episode follows Oscar as he's forced to help Clemantha beat her arch nemesis Clamanda, that's not going to get confusing, in the cheerleading competition. The only reason Oscar is doing this is because he needs an extracurricular to round out his college application, needing Clemantha's signature to prove that he's part of the cheer team. Upon spending time practicing with the cheer team, he finds his passion for it. But oh no, Clemantha sprained her foot and can't be on the top of the pyramid. Yeah, her foot. I think you can see where this is going. Oscar becomes the top of the pyramid and they perform well, but they don't win first place. They win some lame teamwork award instead. Run, Oscar, run. Oscar will be awarded with perfect attendance tomorrow, which can't be true because he missed class 20 episodes ago to go on a mythical adventure. So this episode doesn't matter, even if he does get the award in the end. Good times at Poo Poo Times. I really like this episode. Each character has their own story that comes together at the end in a really satisfying way. B wants to ride a roller coaster with Steve Jackson, Oscar, Jumbo Shrimp, and Albert want to win a lame gamer fork, and Milo and Randy compete against each other to see who's most macho, which is the best plotline of the episode. All these plot lines come together to have everyone ride the most intense roller coaster in the park. Like I said, really well done, really good episode. Oscar makes an impression. Another episode that I really like, and I don't even fully know why. It's just a basic someone pretends to be someone else episode. In this case, Oscar pretends to be the Queen of Fish England. His impression is so good that Mr. Muscles believes he's the actual Queen of Fish England, and Milo and B take advantage of this. Oscar eventually wants to stop pretending, to the dismay of Milo and B, so they end up separating after a small argument. It turns out that the Queen of Fish England just so happens to be getting married today. Very unfortunate for the guy pretending to be the Queen of Fish England. Milo tries to stop the wedding, but Mr. Muscles ends up making the situation worse, and almost marries one of his students, which I'm pretty sure is a felony. B saves the day by bringing in a wax statue of the Queen of Fish England, and just before the episode ends, the Queen of Fish England was actually posing as Oscar all day, which I think was a really funny joke of a twist. Fish School Musical. Freshwater High is putting on a play called Potatoes for Winter. Joctopus is playing the Beast, but he's messing up his lines because he's nervous, which causes B to micromanage him out of the play. She wants everything to be perfect because this might be her big break, but when she learns that it was Joctopus's dad's dream for him to star in this exact performance, B has a change of heart and the play ends a success. Employee discount. B entrusts Milo with her dress for tonight's dance. Bad idea, but Oscar wasn't home. When Oscar does come home, he finds Milo wearing B's dress, which is impressive, but when trying to get Milo to take off the dress, he and Oscar get into a fight that results in the dress tearing. Milo and Oscar need to earn enough money to buy a replacement before B gets back. The dress costs 1,000 fish dollars. Why didn't B just wait for Oscar? Although, to be fair, Oscar was kind of half the reason the dress was broken in the first place. Milo and Oscar end up working at the store, selling the dress, and get Clemantha and at the end Mr. Baldwin to buy $1,000 worth of items. And they do this funny bit where they forget about tax until their employee discount kicks in. I find it funny that their employee discount only covered tax. When B returns, she immediately knows the dress isn't hers, because her actual dress was a $3 one from the thrift store. This means that they can return the dress and have enough money to show up in a limo. At the very end of the episode, we can see Mr. Baldwin give Miss Lips the hat that he bought at the store from earlier in the episode. I really hate Miss Lips, but I'll get more into that in an episode where she's more important. Halloween Haul. In this Halloween episode, the students of Freshwater High trick-or-treat outside the tank because Joctopus steals all their candy when they trick-or-treat inside the tank. That's kind of it. Fish Talent Show. Last episode of Season 1. Freshwater High is having a talent show, and B believes that if she wins it, it'll help her acting career. B sets up a group with Chelsea and Clemantha to do a salsa, but when Chelsea kicks Clemantha and doesn't apologize to Clemantha, the salsa group breaks up, and the entire school ends up taking sides. Team Edward versus Team Jacob. I mean Team Chelsea versus Team Clemantha. The premise for this episode is kind of stupid because Chelsea is so clearly in the wrong. She is the one who clicked Clemantha, so she should apologize. But even before she kicked Clemantha, you can see that the choreography was the ultimate problem because of how close she was to Clemantha. B realizes this and the group performs together at the talent show. And thus ends Season 1. I'm surprised because I remember a lot less episodes than I thought I would. I dislike Milo more than I remember too. I don't know what about him makes me dislike him more than a character like Rigby, because their characters are essentially the same. I think Milo is just less self-aware, and the lessons he learns throughout the episode don't really stick. Also, Rigby does go through a character development arc in the later seasons of the show that might also help. Most of my least favorite episodes of Season 1 are Milo-centered. Speaking of rankings, before I move on to Season 2, here's my list of every episode in Season 1 ranked from worst to best. B's commercial. B is trying to advance her acting career, against the wishes of her parents who want B to get a regular job and learn trivia. When the Hokey Pokey is accepting applications for a commercial, B jumps at the opportunity. She lies about her ability to ride scorpions, and when B realizes that it's harder than it looks, she glues herself to the scorpion. She realizes that her parents just want what's best for her after one of her dad's trivia facts helps her calm the scorpion down. Paranoid. Oscar, Milo, Albert, and Jumbofish found the solution to Steve Jackson's popularity, his hair gel. This hair gel is the ultimate huzz magnet. It could even cure cancer if given enough time. But like addicts, once they start running out of the gel, all hell breaks loose. I like this episode, and I think its premise is really funny, even if it was a little basic. Adventures in Fish Sitting. I hate Miss Lips. I hate characters that are dumb for the sake of being dumb, and she is the epitome of that. It's the same reason why I don't like Monty Python. I hate dumb humor for the sake of it being dumb. I don't know how she exists as an adult because she's the type of person who would call IT because the power button exists. Getting to the actual episode, Miss Lips asks B to cat sit her fish named Attila, but the entire time B can only think about the fun she's missing out on. So she shares that pain with Oscar and Milo, who join her in babysitting Attila. Oscar's allergic to Attila, which might have something to do with the fact that he's also a catfish. B, Oscar, and Milo leave to enjoy their weekend, but when they return, Attila is gone. Using Oscar's allergy, B and Oscar search for Attila while Milo pretends to be Attila. Band. Milo fights for the ability to play music at school after being rejected by the band leader. There's literally nothing else to this episode. Merry Christmas, Milo. In this Christmas special, Milo and Oscar want to throw a party, but Oscar is too preoccupied by this one pimple to help Milo decorate. So Milo summons Fish Santa to help him. Meanwhile, B wants to play the part of Fish Santa, but is instead regulated to elf duty, which he then gets fired from. When B meets up with Oscar and Milo, Fish Santa breaks his fingers, so he can't deliver presents anymore. B uses this as a chance to prove her acting skills and delivers presents with Milo. This episode was kinda one note, just one thing after another, but not every special has to be groundbreaking. Milo on the lam. Milo gets blamed for something he didn't do and sets out to prove his innocence. The Milo episodes have been really boring so far this season. Breakup shakedown. I love toxic relationships in shows. Don't ask me why. When Joctopus forgets their anniversary, Piranha dumps him, sending Joctopus spiraling. While the guys try to cheer him up, the girls try to deal with Piranha. The guys and girls come together to form a plan to get Piranha and Joctopus back together. Just one of the fish. Just watch Belle and the Bulldogs. It's basically the entire plot of this episode, except for the twist at the end, which I accidentally spoiled for myself because I vividly remember this episode. For these next two episodes, Rock Lobster Yeti and Spoiler Alert, I either don't have them on DisneyPlus or couldn't find them, so we're just skipping them. B dates Milo. Milo and Pamela break up, but when B tries to cheer him up, Albert and Jumbofish get in his head that B likes him. So instead of being a reasonable person and just talking to his friend about it, he decides to pretend to like her. All this while knowing that his brother likes B. So, L brother. B, not wanting to hurt Milo's feelings, fresh off a breakup, pretends to like Milo back. Oscar would be tweaking if he were awake, and this episode would be 2 seconds long, but instead, he's passed out the entire episode. Milo and B finally have a conversation and realize that they were both pretending to like each other. A little too late considering they basically dated and they kissed. Oscar's secret admirer. Milo accidentally gives Oscar a love letter, thinking that he would ship it for him instead of assuming it was for him. So instead of telling him the truth, Milo just proves how undateable Oscar is by trying and failing to set him up with someone. Until the end of the episode where they end up running a two-man. DisneyPlus has this episode come before Pamela breaks up with Milo, so for a couple episodes I thought Milo was cheating on Pamela. I'm glad Fishhooks isn't endorsing infidelity. 16 Clemanthos. Clemanda is wearing a birthday sash, leading everyone to believe that they forgot her birthday. To make up for it, the gang decides to throw a surprise birthday party for her. B plans the whole party while Oscar rounds up the family and Milo distracts Clemantha. Turns out, Clemantha thought she was wearing a baker's outfit and not a birthday sash. It's not her birthday. Clemantha's pretty dumb, but it's the kind of dumb that's better than Miss Lips. I hate Miss Lips. I'm so sorry. Back to the extra episode. B needs to clean up the Oscar-themed birthday party before Clemantha shows up because she would die of embarrassment if people thought it was her birthday. I like this episode. Send me an angelfish. This is the episode I've been waiting for. I love Oscar and Angela.
What's your name?
Angela.
Nice to meet you, Angela.
Angela.
I'm sorry, Angela's relationship. In this episode, Oscar is practicing for a debate tournament against Saltwater High. Angela, while scouting the competition, ends up falling for Oscar and they spend a lot of time together. When Oscar loses his debate notes, he feels that Angela might have pretended to like him only because she wanted to win the debate. She even takes pictures of him in spy gear like a creep, but to be fair, Oscar would probably do the same thing. When Oscar confronts Angela at the debate, he realizes that she is actually into him and was only taking pictures for a scrapbook. Even creepier. But hey, Oscar seems to be into it. Like I said, I love this relationship because I think Angela was perfect for Oscar, but we'll have to see what happens. Science Fair Detective Mystery. Oscar unveils a science project he's been working on all year, the potato clock. When it gets stolen, Bee and Milo become detectives trying to figure out who stole the clock. It was very obviously Joctopus from frame 1, and he's been taking pictures of Oscar the entire episode. I'm surprised he figured out how to work a camera. The reason he was taking pictures of Oscar was because his project was looking at the effects of stealing a nerd's science fair project on a nerdfish. That was actually a pretty funny twist. And honestly, Joctopus deserved to win the entire science fair, but first place is instead awarded to both Oscar and Joctopus. Guys' night out. Oscar is finally going steady with Angela, something that the guys aren't particularly fond about. They make some good points, but also a lot of really bad ones.
Girlfriends hate fun, especially when their boyfriends are having fun without them. Hallelujah!
This leads Oscar to start freaking out, wanting to make the most of his last day as a single man, even though he isn't single anymore. Oscar and the guys do a bunch of extreme activities in a 10-second montage before tiring out and driving back home. Oscar is still buzzing, wanting to do as much as he can before he's locked in relationship jail, but Albert very kindly tells him to get out of his car.
Wake up, guys! We gotta keep going! Gotta have the best night ever!
Sorry, Oscar. We're tired and out of money. We're going home.
But
Get out of my car.
I don't know why, but I remember the sound Albert makes so vividly, which makes me think that I've seen this episode, but I didn't remember anything that happened in it. Oscar and Milo end up going to the roller derby rink, otherwise known as the toilet, to mess around, but Oscar accidentally gets flushed, landing himself in the hands of the Rat King, whose first reaction is to eat him, of course, as you do, but Oscar's hair kinda makes that difficult. As Oscar's getting munched on, you realize that being in a relationship isn't that bad. He also notices his girlfriend, who was right next to him the entire time. Angel had the same reaction with her friend when she told her that she and Oscar were going steady, further solidifying my belief that Angela was literally made for Oscar. The Rat King ends up letting them go because he wants to go on double dates with Oscar and Angela. What a lucky ending. Even Milo gets some action. Bee sneaks out. The wiki page explains the episode pretty perfectly, so I'm just gonna read directly from that. Bee and the girls get invited to a super cool ferret party, but when her parents tell her she's not allowed to go, she sneaks out. As night goes on, the ferrets turn out to not be as cool as they thought, and when things start to get out of hand, Bee calls her parents to the rescue. After Bee apologizes to her parents for sneaking out and lying, they happily forgive her as they are relieved that she was okay and proud of her for calling them for help. However, Bee still gets grounded by her parents for sneaking out and lying. The only thing I would add is that Milo saw Pamela with an absolute Chad and relapses back into heartbreak. Busy Bee, Rise of the Machines. Bee breaks with Finn and believes her life is over because she's unable to participate in normal school activities. When Randy Princeton offers her a solution in the form of a robo-suit, instead of being suspicious because, you know, he's Randy Princeton, she gladly accepts his offer, quickly becoming addicted to how efficient the suit makes her. But nothing in this world comes for free. To keep the suit, Bee has to go on a date with Randy, and eventually go steady with him. This episode was kind of boring. So Sophisticated. Milo wants to help Oscar pick out a tie, but when he's denied entrance to the tie store because he's not fancy enough, he enlists the help of a background character Bee dated in episode 4 to help his brother pick a tie. This is another episode that DisneyPlus put out of order. I was a little confused because Oscar was talking about a date, but he hadn't even met Angela yet, and the tie Milo ended up picking up didn't even look that good. Milo and Oscar move in. Milo and Oscar break their water filter, and Bee, being a nice friend, offers that they move in with her. But after Milo and Oscar ruin her sleep schedule, instead of talking to them about it, she decides to break her own water filter. A lot of the Bee-centered episodes could be solved if she just decided to have a conversation with the people that she spends the most time with. Oscar is a playa. Esmargot is a femcel and has never interacted with a man in an intimate setting, so when Oscar offers his driver to the hokey poke, she misreads his signals. When Esmargot tells the girls, they try to get proof to show Angela. Eventually the girls realize that Esmargot was exaggerating Oscar's intentions. But to be fair to her, Oscar's shirt was down and the AC was blowing in his hair. How else was she supposed to interpret that? In order to stop Oscar from breaking up with Angela, they kidnap her while Bee pretends to be Angela, which went as well as you might expect. Little Fish Sunshine. Bee enters a beauty pageant in order to meet Brandon Bubbler. She doesn't. She saves his life instead and he writes her a note. All fins on deck. Milo is a dumbass and loses the really expensive cruise ship that the school rented for vacation. But honestly, it's the gang's fault for putting Milo in charge of guarding it, because we all know how dumb he is. Cattlefish Ho. The gang is helping Bo Gregory herd cattlefish to his uncle's ranch. They use real fish to herd cattlefish as fish. Where does the line begin and end?
So, does anyone else think it's weird that we're fish, but we're riding fish, and we're driving fish? What is the delineation between fish who speak and fish who move?
They also make jokes about eating fish, and Clemantha eats a lot of clam chowder. I guess it's best not to think about it and focus on the episode. Milo thinks he's a cowboy, but he's awful at it. His insecurity ends up causing the group to eat dirt soup and for the cattle to escape. Milo ends up saving the day by using his tears to guide the cattle back on trail. This was one of the better Milo's selfish episodes. Probably the best one, actually. Brothers Day. Milo and Oscar see the Joe brothers arguing, so to avoid that happening to them, they have a Brothers Day. I should probably have a Brothers Day with my own brother at some point to avoid ever arguing with him again. If he gets it this far into the video, I'll bake 2 pecan pies all for him. I think that should be good enough. Unfinished doll business. B's mother finds a creepy doll in the attic, and B doesn't have the stomach to tell her mother that she doesn't like the doll. When the doll breaks, she thinks all her problems are solved, until the doll reappears in her bed. No matter what they do to the doll, it just reappears the next day. Like I said earlier, some of B's episodes could be solved if she's just honest and told people what she felt, because her mom had a stockpile of these dolls in the attic. She was just replacing them because they were breaking so often. They also spent their entire life savings on them, so now they're broke. Milo's magical shake. Milo receives his 1000th free shake from the Hokey Poke, but instead of drinking his free drink, he wants to instead savor the moment, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but because it's Milo, we know that he takes it to the extreme. He names his milkshake Emily and takes her everywhere. Eventually, after a failed intervention, Milo realizes how dumb he was being, but he doesn't even end up enjoying his milkshake. Spider's bite. Nice. In this episode, Oscar, Milo, B, and a majority of the gang are hanging out on Milo and Oscar's tank when suddenly water spiders move in right next to them. They represent a biker gang, and a loud one at that. They're what every bad neighbor aspires to be. When Oscar, B, and Milo attempt to make peace with their new neighbors, they take the pie they brought as an insult because it was too cute. In order to resolve the annoying neighbor issue, Celsi suggests that they do a drag race, and the loser has to accept the wishes of the winner. So of course Milo and B lose, but it's okay, because while they were drag racing, Chelsea and Fimbly and Koi were making the spiders area look cute, which they couldn't handle, so they leave anyway. Principal B. In this double-length episode, Principal Stickler goes missing, causing the school to become disorderly. B nominates herself as president so they can bring order back to the school and hopefully open Milo's stolen fruit cup. I don't know why, but I remember parts of this episode, like the fact that Nurse Fishington is a robot, and the scene where Oscar puts a picture of Angela over the picture of B that he still has in his locker. Brother is still stuck on his old crush when he has a girlfriend. This scene comes right after Fishington takes over the school, using B as her puppet leader to maintain the robotic secret. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out that Principal Stickler was trapped in his filing cabinet. When Oscar, B, and Milo figure it out, they join Principal Stickler in his Batcave, where Fishington is already waiting. An epic final battle ensues where B distracts Fishington with Milo's fruit cup, and is able to pull out the spike lodge where Fishington's ear would be. Fishington becomes the new principal, and ex-Principal Stickler retires in his robot suit. Fish at work. This episode was a weird one. Basically, B gets the promotion that she was waiting for. Assistant manager as opposed to the assistant manager. Her first act as assistant manager is to choose which one of her friends to fire, because 1 slacker is fun, but 2 is overkill. The rest of the episode revolves around B trying to figure out different ways to avoid firing her friends. I think the reason this episode is strange is because there's so many points during this episode where there are just random pauses. It happened in other episodes, but I just ignored them because it didn't really distract too much from the rest of the episode, but they're egregious in this episode.
Get out of my pretzel place! I never want to see you again!
It would be fine if these pauses added to the comedic effect, or if they were just one-off, but they just break down the pacing of this episode to a crawl. It feels like the producers had an idea for an episode, then realized a little bit too late that they didn't have enough of an idea to span that entire episode. Which is sad because the episode is fine, not groundbreaking or anything, but it would have been better if I didn't have to wait 10 seconds for everyone to finish loading the next scene. Fixed-dig vampires. Albert has a crush on S. Margot, a pairing that I didn't see coming, but absolutely love. But he's way worse than my brother when it comes to talking to women. Upon hearing how much girls like vampires, Albert decides to dress up as a vampire to impress S. Margot. Too bad she's literally the only girl in the group who hates vampires, and is in fact a vampire hunter. The episode spirals out of control, as S. Margot nearly kills Albert. It was understandably done being a vampire after that, finally understanding that the best way to enter a relationship is as yourself. Fish Lips sinks ships. Mr. Baldwin has a crush on Miss Lips. First off, why? I think a bag of rocks is more interesting than Miss Lips. And second off, Mr. Baldwin thought it would be a good idea to tell Milo of all people about his little secret. Of course, in the very next scene, he tells B and Oscar. Then B tells the entire school. Or I guess technically she didn't because the girls guessed who it was and Chelsea told everyone. I really don't like B in this episode. She tries to force Mr. Baldwin and Miss Lips together in ways that clearly make Mr. Baldwin uncomfortable, and tries to justify it by claiming that she's doing what she thinks is best for both of them to be in a relationship. It's creepy and it's weird and definitely on the extreme end of her characterization. B's birthday surprise. Milo forgot to get a gift for B, his best friend, on her birthday. Yeah, let that one sink in for a second. Anyway, Milo and the gang end up stealing Brandon Bubbler and giving him as a gift to B. Get a job. Milo causes a lunch lady to lose her job and then helps her get it back at the end of the episode. All because he didn't want to pay for his meal. Man, I really dislike Milo-centered episodes. Funny Duddy Study Buddy. Oscar and Chelsea get paired together for a science project. Chelsea wants to do a project involving music, which is pretty based, but Oscar doesn't want to do the project on music. Oscar eventually learns the power of music after saving Milo and B from their own project. I really like the Oscar-focused episodes where B and Milo take a backseat in the B plot. Fish flakes. Milo goes through puberty and loses scales. This makes him think he's ugly. Next. Super extreme grandma games to the max. Randy's pretending to be a grandma so he can participate in the equivalent of the Grandma Olympics. How sad and boring is your life if you need to beat old ladies to feel enjoyment? Oscar and Milo, to their credit, tried to expose Randy, but on the account of the audience being old, they couldn't really hear or see what was going on. So the next best thing was to obviously participate in the grandma games against Randy so that they could win instead of him. Koi story. Koi basically becomes Milo, lying her way to popularity and then a bad situation. I like the gimmick of this episode. We're told Koi did something crazy, something that instantly raised her popularity, but because we don't understand what Koi is saying, we don't actually know what she did until near the end of the episode.
Whoa. No way. I don't know anyone who would do that, Koi.
The big reveal is that she jumped over the shark tank, something that she ends up actually having to do in order to prove herself. She gets her face bitten off for it, and no one's even batting an eye. CB Ski. This is another episode where there are 3 different plot points going on, but this time the gang's at a ski resort. Oscar spends the entire episode trying to get off the ski lift, which is funnier than it should have been. Milo tells stories for hot chocolate, and considering the number of adventures we've seen him go on, I'm surprised he's lying to the people in the ski lodge. B starts beef with some French bunnies, so they challenge her to go down the Black Diamond. As B is racing down the slope, there's an avalanche that brings everyone back together. Night at the Loxbury. The gang wants to go clubbing with the salmon, but they're way too young to do that. So instead of clubbing somewhere else, they decide to start one at the Hokey Poke, under the condition that they sell some food. The salmon start lining up in droves, but they aren't buying any food. In order to sell some food, Milo introduces a credit system, but because this system was implemented by a literal child, the salmon just end up getting free food and packing the place. To get the salmon out, Milo baits them into swimming upstream, something that no salmon can resist. Fish Prom. Time for the best episode of the season, if not the entire show. It's a double-length episode that has each of the main characters following their own storylines. What more could anyone ask for? This episode is about the Freshwater High Prom, the biggest day of a high schooler's career. Even Oscar's excited for prom, but when he tells Angela, she doesn't seem as thrilled, preferring to stay in and play video games. She really is a true incel. Oscar obviously wants to go to prom with his girl, and after some convincing, she agrees to go. But instead of being present at prom, she brought the video games to prom with her helmet. It would have been better if she just didn't go at all instead of doing what she did. They kind of reduced Angela's character this episode into a gamer girl and tried really hard to make her as unlikable as possible. Moving on to Milo, Randy asked him to run a 2-man with some guinea pigs. I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna be a situation where Pamela comes back, but I forgot that she's a hamster and not a guinea pig. Milo was supposed to get the ugly one, which I'm just now realizing was a weird statement because they're twins, but he ends up raising them both up at the end of the episode and winning prom king. Finally, B wants this night to be perfect. She even ends up going to prom with Steve Jackson. But throughout this episode, Oscar keeps alluding to the fact that he's still in love with B. B just doesn't notice, as always. But especially not tonight, because the night is starting off perfect. Steve Jackson even offers to get her a drink, but then he gets locked in the closet. B spends the rest of the episode looking for Steve Jackson as her night gets more and more ruined. Oscar finally manages to get Angel on the dance floor, but in a moment of frustration, he says that he just wanted to have one dance with B.
You know, there's more to life than video games. I thought tonight was gonna be the most special night of my life. And all I wanted was that one dance with you, B. I didn't mean to say that.
Whoa. B? Whoa. Whoa.
Saying the wrong girl's name there is definitely something to get pissed about, but it was also a little predictable. Oscar sees B rush out of prom and follows her, both ending up at the Hokey Poke. B complains to Oscar that this night was supposed to be perfect, but she didn't even end up dancing with Steve Jackson. So Oscar, clearly still on a high after saying the wrong name to Angela, offers to slow dance with B. This ending was perfect. Oscar tries to confess his feelings, a bad look considering he hasn't even officially broken it off with Angela yet, but B just shushes him, not wanting to ruin the moment. Oh yeah, and she kisses him, on the cheek, but she still kisses him. Oh, and the after credits aren't of Snake and Mouse this time. Steve Jackson's finally let out of the closet by Samantha.
Hello?
Hey, what's this room? Whoa, Steve Jackson! This must be the after prom party!
Oh, thank goodness somebody finally opened the... Whoa.
Wait, no. Did she just... What a way to end season 2. I think this season was objectively better than season 1, but that season just has a special place in my heart because of the nostalgia it gives me. Only one more season to go, but before we get into it, here are my season 2 episode rankings. Milo vs. Milo. This is the second Milo-centered episode that I didn't fully hate. I actually thought it was pretty funny. Not a laugh out loud funny, but the kind that makes you appreciate the joke. This episode has Milo return to Hamsterwood, but not for Pamela. Instead, there's a new hamster show called The Milo Show. But the Milo in the show is clumsy, which makes Milo, the fish Milo, think that Milo is gonna make the Milo name look bad. This definitely isn't gonna get confusing. Anyway, Milo crashes the set and steals the show from Milo while also improving the ratings. Milo, the hamster, isn't very fond of Milo, so he locks him in the closet and takes him for a drive in his Milo-themed truck. It was at this point where the episode started to lose me a bit, but it was still kind of funny. It just became a generic Milo episode ending. The truck explodes and Milo saves Milo. Because of the booming ratings, Milo and Milo share a show called Milo and Oscar, which was a pretty funny ending. Everything but the chicken sink. Bee needs to teach a chicken how to swim before their father comes back. Live at the Hamster Bowl. Oscar's gaining more confidence, asking Bee to go to a concert with him so they could hear their song live. But Oscar didn't make it explicitly clear that he wanted it to be a date, so Bee invites the rest of the gang. Antics ensue, but Oscar and Bee end up listening to their song together, and Bee even rests her head on Oscar's shoulder. The Bee and Oscar story arc seems to be ramping up, and I'm here for it. A charity fair to remember. Bee is trying to raise money for a pen pal at a school for clumsy children. It's no surprise that Fimberly went to that school and somehow graduated. Bee's goal is to raise 10,000 fish dollars for a new playground, but Coach Salmon and Mr. Muscles are making that difficult. Bee starts micromanaging them and they almost destroy the charity fair and the school for clumsy children. Bye-bye, BB. Bee's dad got a new job in Fish Phoenix. In order to prevent Bee from moving away, the gang set up a fake box factory to hire Bee's dad. It's crazy how much this episode felt like filler, even though this is an episodic show. Glass man standing. Albert's voice sounds more wimpy than normal, but the people around him just interpret this as him sounding like a girl, which makes him feel emasculated. The next morning, Albert wakes up sounding like Kronk from the Emperor's New Groove, which gives him the confidence to ask Espargo out on an actual date. She ends up getting her slime everywhere while Albert asks her, which has got to be a euphemism for something. His manly voice is gone the next day, but that's okay, because Espargo likes Albert for his heart, not for what he sounds like. South Pacific. Principal Nurse Fishington wants to cut the funding for the drama department, getting an error message every time anything related to theater is mentioned. Bee, Milo, and Oscar jump into Fishington's head, with the help of Jumbo Shrimp, to find the source of the error. It turns out Fishington just wanted to be an actress, like Bee. Unresolved issues. Jumbo Shrimp breaks one of the rules of bro code and gets with Oscar's ex, Angela. She's still mad about the prom thing, but like I said during the episode, although Oscar was in the wrong for saying the wrong girl's name, Angela was even worse for not being present for an event that was important to Oscar. Angela and Jumbo Shrimp are a good match for each other though, but Oscar feels like he still has to apologize for how things went in order for the situation to be less awkward. He does that, but not before Jumbo Shrimp hulks out because Milo can't fly a plane. Freshwater 5-0. Joctopus and Milo want to be cops, so they prove themselves by finding the person who stole the cop car they were supposed to keep watching. Pool party panic. This episode was kind of jarring. This animation style doesn't really fit humans, which is what Milo wakes up to find himself as. The thing is, he remembers his life as a fish, but feels as if it were a dream. When human Baldwin tells Milo to watch the fish tank, he realizes that his dream was actually reality. He spends the entire rest of the episode trying to wake up, jumping between being a human, a pig, a fish, and all sorts of other animals. Considering this episode was double length, it was kind of boring. I liked the concept, but the switch between different realities was kind of jarring, and they didn't really do too much to keep me interested in the plot or do anything more to kind of keep me engaged. It goes from being a pool party story, takes a left turn, then turns into a dream story, and we all know the reputation Dream Theory has. Labor of love. Mr. Baldwin wants to propose to Miss Lips. Don't know why, but you do you, I guess. The ring is massive. I don't know how he afforded it on his teacher's salary, and of course, Milo just found the ring lying in Mr. Baldwin's desk. Now the entire class knows that Mr. Baldwin's proposing to Miss Lips. Unfortunately, she's going away on vacation to Flip Flop Island, so of course, the entire class follows Mr. Baldwin to Flip Flop Island to watch him propose. Milo and Bee try to help Mr. Baldwin propose with an earpiece, but when Milo and Bee say negative things about Attila and Mr. Baldwin repeats them, not only does he lose the ring, but he loses the girl too. In order to try and save the proposal, Oscar, Jumbo Shrimp, and Albert try to find the ring while the rest of the class puts on a play to help Mr. Baldwin win back Miss Lips. But before Mr. Baldwin proposes, he starts going into labor and has many, many children. I thought that his stomach was going to get at least a little flatter, but it looks like he got a little bigger after giving birth. Miss Lips says the only funny thing that she has ever said throughout the entire show to end this episode.
Oh boy, I can't wait to start planning the wedding.
Oh, please, no.
Can I be best man?
Assignment babies. I didn't think I'd remember an episode this late into the show, but I remember the general plot of this one. Mr. Baldwin needs a break from his children, so he gives each pair of students a child to look after for the weekend, which has got to be some sort of illegal. The child that Bee and Oscar get, though, is secretly an adult criminal that pretends to be a baby so he can steal things. Oscar sees the super senior baby try to steal things and tries to tell Bee and the others, but they don't believe him, until he hijacks a baby train and Oscar has to subdue him. hair and back again. Oscar, Jumbo Shrimp, and Albert are playing a D&D clone again, and Milo wants to join as a bunny. In the game where you can do literally anything, Jumbo Shrimp and Albert don't want him to play as a bunny. Kinda discriminatory if you ask me. The ending is kinda contrived, as the librarian only lets them play because she likes the cuteness of the bunny, and in the end, they don't even end up beating the villain. Milo's pony. Milo befriends a pony, but is a bit nervous that the guys will think he's less manly for liking girly things. The Brandon Bubble. Brandon Bubbler joins Freshwater High as a student, and B is immediately infatuated. This is the first time we see Brandon Bubbler have an impact on the story past being a Justin Bieber clone. B spends the first half of the episode showing Brandon the perks of being a teenager. She does such a good job that Brandon gives up his music career, meaning that now he's uninteresting to B. So B spends the second half of the episode showing Brandon the downsides of being a teenager so that he can go back to being Brandon Bubbler. To be honest, there was more to this episode, like a character whose name I'm not even gonna try and pronounce.
It's Bjorn Ufagartsen.
But none of it mattered that much. The other episode where Brandon has a speaking role is a lot more interesting. Dr. Pizza. Octopus's dad wants him to create his own pizza, so he uses his love of football to create a giant football field-sized pizza. Add some more. Mr. Baldwin meets Miss Lip's parents at a seahorse racetrack, but they keep saying, I don't like him. Spoiler alert, they can't speak English. Mr. Baldwin interprets this as Miss Lip's parents not liking him, because what else is he supposed to think? So to prove himself worthy, Mr. Baldwin enrolls in this race. This plot kind of takes a backseat to Bee and Chelsea trying to find a hat for Fimberly, because they want to make her feel better after making fun of her. To me, even this plot takes a backseat to the other plot, because both plots weren't engaging. But there's one character in this episode that gets introduced that I absolutely despise with a burning passion, and that's Visvartan. I couldn't even tell you a good reason why I don't like him. He's just an annoying gag that has no purpose in this show. I don't even understand what the point of him is. And what's up with his girlfriend Sarah? He somehow becomes a recurring character in this final couple episodes of this show, and I'm not here for it. He kind of reminds me of Verdon, except the mere presence of Verdon doesn't make me recoil in disgust. Camp. I really like this episode, and it's fitting because this is the 100th episode of the show. It's one of the ones where each main character has their own story going on, except for Oscar, whose story is intertwined in both Bee and Milo's story. School is out for the summer, which I find hard to believe considering this episode released in January, and the episode afterwards is a play on a snow day. Either way, the camp the school goes to, Camp, is run by Coach Salmons and Mr. Muscles. Brandon Bubble is also on this camping trip, which ties into Bee's plot of the episode. Bee thinks that Brandon will ask her to be exclusive during this trip, but anyone can see that he's just using her for attention, only feeding her what she wants to hear in order to keep her attention. Bee only realizes this after catching Brandon in the woods with some other girl, but she realizes that maybe she's been in love with someone else the whole time. Focusing on the other plot of the story, Coach Salmon's sister Savannah is hosting a summer camp right next to Camp called Camp Crystal Waters. Coach Salmons hates Savannah. Of course, it's some arbitrary she was always better than me in every way when we were kids reason, and then they make up at the end because it was all a misunderstanding. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before they make up, Coach Salmons forces the group through a rough hike, which leaves the group wanting to leave Camp. Coach Salmons catches them and has a mental breakdown. Mr. Muscles explains the whole Savannah was better than Coach Salmon's thing, and the gang feels bad. But then they make up and push their islands right next to each other. Algae Day. Milo wants to spend his day off of school in the algae, but Oscar and Bee want to watch TV, so Milo is forced to hang out with Dan and Anchovy. Nothing else really important happens, although I do have one question. Why does everyone have to wear winter gear, but Oscar and Bee are fine with their normal clothes on? Food for thought. Bee saves a tree. Bee becomes a hippie but then folds immediately when learning they're planning to build a new Fish Ever 22. Surfing the interweb, just like the wiki page says, Miss Lips watches internet videos. Don't let the fish drive the party bus. I know I've seen this episode, but I can barely tell you anything memorable about it. No idea why there's a party bus, or why the fish can't drive it. I do remember that Fish Farton is in this episode, and that I still don't like him. And that Milo and Mr. Baldwin skydive into the party bus. And that Oscar, Jumbo Shrimp, and Albert need hot guys for some reason. More things that I thought I remembered, but the thing I should have remembered, the plot, just vanished out of my head. Milo in a cup. Oscar is jealous that Milo can just create parties out of nowhere. So Milo puts his essence into a cup and gives it to Oscar. And by essence, I mean apple juice, Milo's spit, and a note. A little disgusting, but giving Oscar his essence in a cup means that Milo now has no interest in partying. And without partying, there is no Milo, which means that he has to steal his essence back. Fish taco. I think this was meant to be a continuation of Fish at Work. It even starts with the same sequence that Fish at Work ends with. Fimberly delivers the taco to the wrong person, and of course it's Fish Vartan. Every time there's something wrong, it's always him. Anyway, the taco goes on an adventure throughout the mall, because for some reason mall tacos are like drugs. Brothers of a Feather. Bird Mom wants kids. Milo and Oscar exist. Problem solved. The arrangement goes well until Milo and Oscar are forced to fly. But if you hadn't noticed, fish don't exactly have the ability to fly. It's okay though, because Bird Mom ends up saving them at the end. I have this friend. This episode was kinda convoluted, but basically boils down to Chelsea dates her clone named Michael. Freshwater lives. Not gonna lie, this episode was also kind of weird, which is not a good look considering this is the penultimate episode. This episode can be boiled down to Milo finding the founder of Freshwater because he wants to be rich so he can buy a mobile game. One thing I noticed in this episode was that in the scene where Milo is reheating the founder of Freshwater, who is a frozen fish stick, the button of the microwave says start, but then when cutting back, it says stop, which is weird because zooming out to see the entire microwave, there's only one green button at the bottom of the microwave and it says stop. The big woo. This is the final episode, and I'm sorry to say, it kinda disappoints. I think the main reason for this is that there wasn't really any build up to it. The episode kinda seems like it's just wrapping up loose ends in a way that fans wanna see, but does it worse than Fish Prom. It's graduation time, and B has to give a speech, which means that she was somehow either valedictorian or class president, none of which makes sense because I don't see how she would have had time for either of those. B finally realizes that she has feelings for Oscar, which comes out of almost nowhere. I get that there were signs in some episodes, but the audience was just led to believe that nothing came from it and that Oscar and B were still viewing each other as friends. Chelsea tells B to forget about Oscar because he's ugly, which dang, but fair. B's parents tell her that she needs to feel the woo. Milo tells Oscar not to tell B his feelings because that means things will change and he doesn't want things to change. But Oscar ignores him because Milo gives the worst advice. There is a first time for everything. He finally understood that a little bit too late. B initially rejects Oscar when he tells her his feelings because she didn't feel the woo, but not even 2 minutes later, while giving the speech, she feels the woo, and we end with Oscar and B kissing. We are finally done with season 3, and with that, the show as a whole. I feel like the beginning of season 3 was definitely way stronger than the end of it. It felt like the writers just put fish hooks on the back burner and we got churned out some pretty basic episodes. I'm a sucker for romance, which is why I wish there were more of a natural progression from Oscar and B being friends to lovers. Even an episode or two where B realized her feelings for Oscar would have been enough. Or removing the 5 or 10 episodes in the later half of season 3 would have made things a little bit cleaner. All in all though, it was fun rewatching a show that holds a special place in my memories. I hope that this video inspires you to rewatch a show you've been thinking about for the past week. Before I give you my final ranking of every episode, I wanted to say that if you made it this far into the video, thank you. The best way to encourage me to fix my upload schedule is to hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to comment on what your favorite episode of Fish Hooks was. Without further ado, here's my definitive Fish Hooks episode ranking. I didn't watch Spoiler Alert and Rock Lobster Yeti, so we're not counting it. Surfing the Interweb. Don't let the fish drive the party bus. Here's Taco. Hair and Back Again. B saves a tree. Algae Day. Band. Fish at Work. Milo in a Cup. Jocto Pizza. Freshwater Lives. Milo on the Lamb. Fish Flakes. Milo's Magical Shake. Everything but the chicken sink. Adventures in Fish Sitting. I Have This Friend. Busy Bee. Rise of the Machines. Flying Fish. Milo Gets a Ninja. Milo's Pony. Peopling. Brothers Day. Dances with Wolffish. So Fishticated. Legend of the Earth Troll. Doggone It. Little Fish Sunshine. Unfinished Doll Business. Fuddy Duddy Study Buddy. Funny Fish. Fail Fish. Get a Yob. Parasite Fight. Fish Out of Water. The Brandon Bubble. Guys Night Out. Halloween Haul. Fish Floaters. Merry Fishmas Milo. Milo and Oscar Move In. B Dates Milo. Just One of the Fish. Freshwater 5-0. Koi Story. Spider's Bite. All Fins on Deck. Science Fair Detective Mystery. Night at the Loxbury. The Big Woo. A Charity Fair to Remember. Bye Bye BB. Fish Lips Sinks Ships. Try saying that 5 times fast. Unresolved Fish Shoes. Baldwin the Superfish. South Pacific. Brothers of a Feather. Fish Talent Show. The Dark Side of the Fish. Big Fish. Dropsy. Riding in Cars with Fish. Assignment Babies. Fish Sleepover Party. Had Some More. Super Extreme Grandma Games to the Max. B's Birthday Surprise. Mascot Chastrophe. Pool Party Panic. B's Commercial. Pamela Hamster Returns. Milo vs. Milo. Oscar's Secret Admirer. Dollars and Fish. Run Oscar Run. C B's Ski. Principal B. Labor of Love. Doris Flores Gorgeous. Oscar's a Playa. Cattlefish Ho. Chicks Dig Vampires. Send Me an Angelfish. B Becomes an Adult Fish. Diary of a Lost Fish. Fish School Musical. Employee Discount. Good Morning Freshwater. Live at the Hamsterwood Bowl. Fishing for Compliments. The Glass Albert Story. Glass Man Standing. Milo's Big Idea. B Sneaks Out. Breakup Shakedown. Underwater Boy. The Tale of Sir Oscar Fish. Queen Bee. Hooray for Hamsterwood. Getting to the top 10s, we have Camp, 16 Clemanthals. Paranoid. Happy Birth Fish Octopus. We've Got Fish Spirit. B stays in the picture. Good Times at Poo Poo Times. Oscar Makes an Impression. 2 Clams in Love. And finally, we have Fish Prom. Like I said, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.